Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents, where we'll be previewing, hopefully, one of this weekend's Gameweek 18 encounters with our correspondents from Wolves and Chelsea joining us today. Firstly, let me introduce you our Wolves correspondent, Bradley Parker. How are you, Bradley?
Not too bad, James. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, mate. And our Chelsea correspondent, Ted Maw. How are you, Ted?
I'm good, mate. Keeping well.
Good. Before we talk about the weekend game, and obviously, Ted, you've got a game still to come tonight, touch wood as well. To timestamp this, we are recording as of 12 p.m. UK time on Thursday, the 16th of December. So hopefully we'll be quite current, but the COVID situation in the Premier League is escalating rather quickly. Bradley, how are you feeling about what's happening within the Premier League at the moment?
I feel a bit nervous that they'll, at the minimum, stop fans coming in. I think that'll be really, from my point of view, quite sad and disappointing. Because, like speaking personally from my ear, it's been pretty rough, and football's been the main thing to want to go back to and take your minds off a lot of things. And when it's behind closed doors, it's just complete. Well, we've experienced it. It's just completely dead. Like, you shrug your shoulders most of the time at the results, and
nobody wants to return to behind closed doors football, but I feel it might be something that unfortunately becomes a necessity. Obviously, Bradley, you're a season ticket holder at Wolves. Do you have any nervousness? I know obviously you want to go. Your opinion will probably be very similar to mine about going to Tottenham, but do you have any nervousness about going to the game?
No, because it's been nearly, is it 2 years now since it started? We've got vaccines. We know what to do. It's like, I think you've said before, it's never going to go away. So I'll just live my life, that's it really. I've had my vaccine, so that's all I can do really. I can't do physically any more than that.
Yeah, I have a suspicion that this could well be, we could be having the same conversation in 12 months. Is the fear I've got with kind of winter bugs and pressure on NHS, etc. How are you feeling about it, Ted?
It'd be a shame if we have to start setting more restrictions in place, but you've got to do what you got to do, I guess. And I'm kind of just sort of fed up with the whole thing now, just sort of waiting for it to fizzle out. I just know it's going to get worse before it gets better, I think. And I'm accepting of the fact that we're going to look at disruption of football for a while. There's restrictions coming in all over the place that I don't fully understand. They sort of feel, a bit all over the place, but I'm just sort of tired of it,
Yeah, do you know what? I think you guys are both kind of summing up how a lot of people feel at the moment, whether it be about FPL or just football in general, is kind of almost the demotivation to it at the moment. It might even be good for us to have a break as well, because it's, I mean, from an FPL perspective, it's almost ridiculous making an early transfer at this moment. It almost feels ridiculous making a transfer. I mean, poor Ted bought in Josh King for Breuer this week, I think, Ted.
What a move that was.
Yeah, I mean, Breuer's yellow flagged, very doubtful for Palace, goes and bangs a goal and assist last night. Josh King doesn't even have a game. Yeah, I feel the sympathy. Just before we started recording as well, Simon Phillips, who is he works for a Chelsea website, I think. Ted, am I right in saying that?
Very strong source, got lots of good links. It's been backed up now by Football London and a few others.
Okay, so that report suggests that there are 3 positive COVID Chelsea cases within their squad ahead of tonight's fixture against Everton. I would guess that's not enough to cause a cancellation of the game. Firstly, before we talk about Sunday's game, we're going to work on this podcast on the basis that football will continue at the moment. How do you feel about tonight's game against Everton, Ted?
Everton are struggling at the moment. They've got a number of injuries now, so it should be a game that we win. And we've certainly got the players to do it, even if we do lose 3 to COVID. It's always a bit worrying because our December form is returning to its normal self of just being pain. I'd hope we'd have a game that's a bit less stressful. We might be able to string some passes together, get us, especially with some of our midfield players starting to return now. It sort of comes at a bit of a weird time where we've still got a lot of players just coming back from injury. So they may be available, but they can't start the game, which gives us a bit of a weird dynamic. But I'd be relatively confident. I'll be hoping for sort of like a 2-0 win or something,
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly not in a good place. When you see what like City have done the other night against Leeds and stuff as well, you got to be putting the points on the board. Do you feel anything in reflection of that? The fact that Leeds was obviously very close for you at the weekend, and then Man City have gone and destroyed them by 7.
Yes and no. I mean, City have got all the players fit that they want fit. So they really do have sort of a full Arsenal, and we don't. And Tuchel made a point of that in his press conference earlier this week. I think Leeds got their tactics really spot on against us. They were very impressive, setting up, really pinning in our wing backs effectively. Alonso didn't have much luck at all against Shackleton during that game. And I thought they controlled the middle surprisingly well, because I thought they'd really struggled there with no Phillips, with Adam Forshaw there playing instead. But they controlled the game well. We didn't move the ball well through our midfield. Obviously, a bit of a makeshift midfield going on, but I was impressed by them. And it's a different game when you play City against us. It's completely different tactics, completely different formations, and clearly City worked far better. There is a very noticeable difference in quality between the two teams, between us and City, though. There's no questioning that. And it does make it hard to argue a case for why Chelsea could be champions this year. It's hard to say that now when you look at City playing like this and Chelsea dropping points in games where we've got to do much better, just like the West Ham game.
I want to come back onto those issues because I think there's probably a couple of very easy fixes for you. Bradley, talk to us about last night, the game against Brighton. I must confess, I let Suj obviously watch his team get well beat at Arsenal, and it was a choice for me between Brighton, Wolves, and I chose Crystal Palace and Southampton. And after half hour, I decided Southampton weren't doing anything, so I was going to turn your game on. 5 minutes later, Southampton winning 2-1. I went, this is shit, and turned it back over. Tell us about the game, mate.
Well, Podence beat Dan Burn in the air, so he missed something pretty good.
Class, that takes some doing. Was he on a step ladder or stilts? Or?
I don't know, but he must have catapulted himself. Must have some springs or something.
Was Dan Burn on his knees?
They both jumped, and they somehow won it. Must have jumped into his chest.
Wow. Was it a deserved victory?
On the whole, yeah. Brighton had one big chance just before half-time, but they kicked it over the bar. But other than that, they don't really create that many big chances, and we probably should have got one more goal when Traore played Podence in, but he shot straight at the goalkeeper. So
yeah, I saw the Mwepu miss. It was a staggering miss. If you haven't seen it, that's worth trying to find. But I know they're not in a good run at the moment, Brighton, but that's a big win to go there and win. Am I right in saying you'd previously drawn every meeting since they got promoted? I think
pretty much.
You got promoted,
we beat them the last time we played them at home. This is the first time we've ever beat them in league football back-to-back, because they are a bogey team for us. Hate going to Brighton. Don't usually get much.
What happened to Ryan Aït-Nouri, mate?
I heard the commentator say it was a groin in the warm-up, so hopefully nothing serious, because I can't be bothered watching Markel play football again for a long period of time.
I also saw him take one in the knackers last night, which he was struggling with for about a full 2 minutes.
He went down about 6 times in the entire match. Honestly.
Why have you got so many injury-prone players, Bradley? Because, I mean, Aït-Nouri is as well, isn't he?
God knows. Our medical team used to be spot on as well. Never used to get many, but maybe it's Markel. Maybe he's got some sort of bad curse on him, spreading around the camp.
What would you say to Aït-Nouri owners? Is that a sell, obviously, is it?
If he's injured long term, but if he's not, just can shove him on the bench.
Would you say
4.3?
He was, yeah. I presume he probably still was with the fixture list you've got coming up. Would he be the obvious first choice? Say it's nothing and he's back at the weekend. Is he still first choice in your mind?
Yeah, he's streets ahead of Marcel. Way ahead of him.
I watched the game at City at the weekend. I was very impressed with him. Looked really good, actually.
He's class. He was class against Liverpool as well. Since he's come back in the team, really, he's justified why I keep moaning for so long that he should be in the team.
There certainly will be FPL managers, Bradley, looking at your defence. I think, Aït-Nouri would have been the one, I think, but now we'll possibly look elsewhere. This record of 14 goals conceded in 17 games is very impressive. We won't mention the scoring statistic as yet, but obviously the 1-0 defeat to City, 1-0 defeat to Liverpool, you were in these games. Obviously Liverpool was very late. City was circumstantial with the penalty. We know it wasn't a penalty. We all know that. but there's a chance they may have scored anyway. But two individual moments have kind of decided those games. So there's nothing to say that you can't keep Chelsea out at the weekend. Am I just watching Nuno Espirito Santo's team at his best?
I think you're watching a guy who doesn't want to play in that way, but he needs his own players. I think I've said before, it's well known he doesn't want to play a back three, but he's doing very well with it. He's got at the very minimum, he showed he can adapt, because the passing play is a bit better as well. It's just that I'm not sure he's got the players for the full style, so he's sort of like in a hybrid mode at the minute.
It feels a little bit like, from what we'd seen in pre-season to then what we've seen since, that he seems to have recognised there hasn't been much choice.
Yeah.
But to play with the back three. But he's doing similarly what Nuno used to do, in terms of he keeps picking the same team. Like that back three is completely immovable at the moment. I know Willy Bolly's back fit. He's not going to put any pressure on at the moment, is he?
No, he'd probably break down even if he played.
Right, so another one that's injury prone, basically.
Yeah, he just seems to have broke down completely now.
And what about the Moroccan Maldini, as I heard Bruno Lage call him last night, Romain Saïs, Moroccan Maldini? That's one of the worst ones I think I've ever heard. Does like a goal from a set piece though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's always been a threat. He loves the yellow card as well a lot of the time. So he's always there's always a line with Saïs. He'll either put in incredible performance, solid, or an absolute catastrophe. So
if you were looking for one at the moment, what we saying? Saïs, Cody, Kilman, Semedo, where would your money go?
How much is Saïs?
Oh, sure team, Brad. I don't know. I'd have to have a look, mate.
Probably like 4.9, isn't he? 4.9?
I think so, yeah. I'll have a double check. But which one are you thinking?
I like Kilman.
I really rate him. I was so impressed with him when I came to your place game week 2. Kilman's 4.5, Cody 4.5, Saïs is 5, Semedo's 4.8.
They'll go by Semedo.
So with Semedo, actually, the other three have all got more points than Semedo, which might be hard to believe.
No.
But yeah, Semedo 58, Kilman 59, Cody 64, Saïs 68. If Saïs was 4.5, he'd be the one, but I'm not convinced he's worth that 0.5. It's also worth bearing in mind there's that. You're also not out of this difficult fixture run either. So Chelsea at home this weekend, touch wood, then Watford at home, then Arsenal away, Man United away, looking more difficult away fixtures now than perhaps they would have done 6 weeks ago or so. So I wouldn't be looking at your defence yet, but you might have the added bonus that you're playing games and some of these other teams might not be. What about the keeper, Brad? Because everybody, if you're like me, I mean, I had him for a number of weeks before wildcard. I had him for the 3 back-to-back clean sheets. I quite like him. I was impressed with him early in the season. I think personally he's a better goalkeeper than Rui Patricio.
He's 100%, yeah.
I think he's really helped the stability of that defence and helping you with the number of goals you've conceded. With many managers having De Gea, Backman, Vicente Gaeta, there's a lot of issues at the moment. Could you make a case for Sarr versus, say, Aaron Ramsdale at the moment?
Maybe Arsenal's fixtures are a lot better.
They are.
And Ramsdale's one of those irritating players in FPL that gets bonus if he breathes.
Ted smiling tells me that Ted owns Aaron Ramsdale.
I do.
There you go. For the benefit of those on YouTube, it was literally written all over his face. Thanks, Bradley. Yeah, I've got him. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Very interesting.
So irritated. I was glad when he got booked last night. So I was like, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that the fixture list probably determines that you're not worth really having a look at. But then you've got another great run from game week 22 to game week 32, where the most difficult fixtures you've got in there is Arsenal at home and there's trips to Tottenham and West Ham. Other than that, it's a very good run of fixtures again.
Ramsdale also blanked during that, won't he?
What's that, sorry?
Ramsdale will have a blank because of Chelsea's Club World Cup as well. So it's an extra game there for Sarr.
Well, not 100% certain that, Ted, because that game could actually be rearranged in the midweek after its original scheduled postponement. Because you don't play in the Champions League that midweek afterwards. You play Lille. Definitely Lille, we know now, the second time of asking, the week after. So that Chelsea-Arsenal game could, in theory, still take place in that original set game week. Is your goalkeeper having a wobble, Ted? Just while we're kind of on the subject.
Yeah, a little bit. He, especially when he's got the ball at his feet, he's lost a little bit of confidence. He's always been a keeper that's been quite good with his feet normally. There's been a few times, not just the one, what was it, against West Ham, right, where he got caught out majorly?
Yeah, for the penalty.
But he's had a few others that maybe haven't been punished as bad, so you haven't seen it on, match of the day or whatever. But he's had those moments where he's been pressed and made mistakes, has almost lost the ball. It's a little bit concerning. But, I mean, he still looks decent. All right, we've been largely spoilt by his sort of, I don't like saying world-class, but he has been making some world-class performances recently. So I'm not too stressed. He has a little dip in form. But fortunately, we've got Kepa, who suddenly decided that he wants to be a keeper.
Bloody hell, Ted, steady.
I know, it's crazy. It's like I've gone into some weird world here. Having two keepers that can save the ball, it's bizarre.
Have all the shots been within a 6 yards kind of? Because I know he struggles with the long distance stuff, doesn't he?
I think they actually have been, yeah. But yeah, it's good to see him getting some confidence back, even if Mendy's lost a little. I have no doubt that Mendy will bounce back and no issues, and we'll talk about this further. But
the kind of irony in that, to be serious, that is, if we were naming the team of the season so far, the majority of us would probably have Mendy in goal, right?
Yeah.
I'd imagine he's just had a couple of difficult games. I think you're right, actually. There's a little confidence issue for some reason with his kicking or overplaying. I'm not quite sure why it's happening, but it's been noticeable in the last couple of games. It would be first choice right-sided centre-back as it stands.
Currently, I think it's Christensen. Last couple of games have been a poor performance. We've been having these issues with his contract sort of trundling on, some public comments from Tuchel as well about it. I think that's resolved now. I need to double check, but I think that's largely been sorted. And again, if it's just a short-term wobble in form, you'd expect him to come over that. Azpilicueta's dropped out completely for no reason from what I can see. We've been talking about it for ages that, he's getting older, he's getting a bit slower and so on and so on. We've been expecting him to start losing minutes. But to go from first choice right centre-back to definitely not first choice is a kind of shocking drop-off. Trevor Chalobah has been absolutely superb.
Yeah, agreed.
And I really, really, really like him. Once he's back to full fitness, will he be first choice of Christensen? It's possible, actually. It is possible. He's stepped up really impressively. Trying to fit everyone in when there's so many permutations you could take is tough. I really like Thiago Silva at the moment. I'd like to see him playing. So if Christensen can't play in that centre spot, do you move him across? I don't know. It's tough. It's a bit of a minefield at the moment.
I think we can probably agree though that if you're playing Champions League final tomorrow, Rudiger's left-sided centre-back, Thiago Silva's the sweeper.
Yes. But
it could be any one of the other three at right-sided centre-back, it feels like, possibly dependent even on who the opponent would be.
Yeah, it depends what you want, right? Because, Chalobah's, he's very tall, he's quick, but, maybe he lacks a bit of that experience. He doesn't show it in recent performances. He looks very well established. But, Christensen has got a great... He works really well with Thiago Silva and his experience in this back line. He knows the system well. You can go with whatever you want, really.
In Chalobah's 692 minutes on the pitch this season in the Premier League, you've conceded 3 goals.
It's not a surprise to me. He's been fantastic.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really... I wasn't expecting him to step up quite this much this season. I know, he looks very strong last season in the Championship, but he's really pushed on well this season. I'm hugely impressed with him.
We'd also make the case that in all of those goals, he's completely blameless. I'll tell you the goals. Penalty, Southampton. Jorginho's missed control against Manchester United. And Emmanuel Dennis's goal for Watford, which obviously came from the opposite side of the pitch to him. So, yeah, do you think he's a shout at 4.7? If you're in a position at the moment, which many people will be aiming towards, is kind of 15 playing players, I realise he's a rotation risk, but he's also one he's either going to play or he isn't. He's probably not going to come on a substitute, especially now your midfield players are getting back to fitness. Is he worth a shout?
I think you consider him. Again, you've got the issue where you're not just comparing him within the Chelsea team, you've got to compare against other defenders. Arsenal right now, there'll be a lot of good value players there in both White and the fullback that I can't say the name of.
What, Kieran Tierney? Is it that difficult for you?
No, the one that's like Tiramisu.
Tomiyasu.
close enough.
Well, those two fullbacks are basically the same price as Chalobah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a fair comparison.
They're slightly cheaper, yeah. But they're going to play every game. Do you have that same sort of security when you really need Chalobah to play? I don't know. I think a lot of people are already going to have multiple Chelsea defenders and will be looking more at selling Chelsea defenders than buying Chelsea defenders at the moment with our sort of current wobbling form. So I don't know how many people will be going for Chalobah. There's definitely a case for him. I won't be buying him myself, but he's one to put on your watch list and keep an eye on if he does start playing every game.
Interesting idea, though. If you take, because a lot of people will have, certainly even say the Twitter community might have Tomiyasu at the moment, who's started every game for Arsenal since game week 4. He's got 9 more points than Chalobah, and obviously he's more nailed to play than Chalobah. But when Chalobah doesn't play, presumably you've got bench points coming in. So once you level it out, it's quite close.
If we're having more weeks like this, you might not have bench points available.
No, I get that.
So I at the moment, I'm very keen to have as close to 15 nailed players at the moment. 14. I don't really care about my backup keeper. I'm sort of resigned to that now. But the point is, Chalobah is going to score more points because he will get those clean sheets. If we're struggling during December, like we have the last 2 Decembers, and that extends into January where we have a couple of tough games, we have City, we have Liverpool in there. Do you want to be sort of messing about with that, or would you rather just take some safer points?
Yeah, I hear you. Very, very true. You will obviously have at least one blank. Certainly in game week 24, that's an absolute definite. You will blank in that week. The last time we spoke, Ted, was prior to you playing at Brentford. Ben Chilwell scored in that game. And afterwards, him and his mate Reece James decided to go a bit mental. You and I were in agreement at the time that this is too much of a headache. I'm not convinced that they're going to play every week. We missed the trick, didn't we?
Yeah. Mount annoyed me because I have been so resolute that he's not like an explosive player or anything. And then he went out and scored 24
reliable
points.
and more explosive.
I've just given up with him now. It's so ridiculous. He is a great option if people are thinking about buying him. There's a slight bit of concern about minutes because we have so many attacking players fit that want to get some sort of minutes. We've got pretty much everyone coming back now. So maybe he will miss the occasional game, and you may prefer to go the safer route. Whatever, it's fine. With tougher fixtures, I understand sort of staying away from Chelsea a little bit now. Left back, Chilwell was fantastic. I bought him quite quickly after he started, showing that he was nailed.
Straight after telling everyone not to bother. I see you, mate. I see you.
Well, it's tough, isn't it? You don't want to say,
no, it is,
like, buy Chilwell now, even when there's a good chance that Alonso will come in. I've been very vocal about how much I don't rate Alonso. I was going to mince my words, but I figured why not. He's going to struggle. I suspect he's going to play pretty much everything now, unfortunately. But Chilwell is fantastic, isn't he? He's so good on such high form as well and confidence. Oh.
Well, the injury is obviously incredibly unfortunate. Alonso is 5.7. Reece James is 6.3. If you're buying for the weekend, where would your money go? Would you pay the extra if you had a straight choice as a new investment?
I own Alonso currently, and I'm not happy about it.
I can't believe that you own Alonso because of how much you dislike him.
But as bad he is for Chelsea, normal Alonso is great for FPL. He's currently not doing it. He's currently not getting in the same positions. He's not as aggressive with his attacking.
Why is that, do you think?
I don't know if it's another confidence thing or if he's taking his foot off the accelerator. Now he doesn't have Chilwell over his shoulder. Something, I don't know. But
is it because he doesn't have the pace to recover?
He doesn't have anything. That's the problem. He's. I don't know if he's been told by Tuchel that he's got to stay a bit deeper now because he has been. When teams counterattack against us, Alonso is never there to defend. He's just not there because he's still in the penalty box having a cup of tea or something. Recently, though, you have been seeing him drop back a bit more. So maybe there is sort of genuine case that he's been told to stay back because you're not dropping back and we need you there.
Is it possibly, though, Ted, is it possibly a case that the injury kind of came about at the end of the 5 brilliant fixtures that we highlighted for you? And then actually the Leicester game kind of transpired that it was actually 6 very good fixtures. Those fixtures against Southampton, Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley, Leicester. Then Ben Chilwell got injured. Marcus Alonso played against Man United that turned up and was very negative on the day. Watford, who played very well against you, had 50% of the ball. You had major selection issues that night. I mean, I said on the podcast afterwards, I thought it was only 3 of Chelsea's best 11 played that night. Then West Ham, which is difficult. And then obviously Leeds will give you a proper game at the weekends. Is there a little bit of that, actually, that this could have happened to Chilwell as well?
He would have dropped a bit, but no, Alonso's just crap. I'm afraid he's not great. I think we struggle moving the ball up that left flank a little bit more now. We have less of a threat coming in. Typically, when we had both Chilwell cutting towards the penalty area, the penalty spot area, rather than Alonso, who's more keen to attack that exact back post. I think it sort of disrupted our system a little bit, and it has hurt us quite a bit. But I do expect Alonso to improve from where he is currently. The concern for me is more minutes rather than fancy Premier League potential, if that makes sense.
Okay. So if you own neither, and let's throw Rudiger and Thiago Silva in the conversation as well, which one would you buy right now? It would be the first Rudiger. Chelsea player you go to.
Ooh, I'm very happy with Rudiger. I'm just trying to remember the prices. He's only 0.1 cheaper than James, isn't he?
Yeah, Rudiger 6.2. I swapped Rudiger for James on Wildcard, and I'm not going to pretend that I might not be regretting that now, because I probably am.
Rudiger is, we saw him last game against Leeds. He's quite happy to storm forwards at the moment. I don't know how many sustained returns you're going to get from him. I expect James to get a lot better. Especially when James is back comfortably on the right-hand side. You would expect him to be looking a lot happier. I would prefer James as my first choice, but I think Rudiger is also a very good option at the moment. I don't know if I'd be in a rush to buy more Chelsea defenders in currently. I don't think we have a, Fantasy Premier League's FDR, I don't think we have a 2 until March now. It's all just sort of trickier games where you could easily lose clean sheets over that period. But if I was choosing James, Rudiger, and then like Alonso.
Okay, that's fair. The fixture you talk about, Wolves was kind of discussed. It's not an easy fixture this weekend at all, actually. Villa away, it's kind of, again, it's another one that feels very different to a few weeks ago because of the Steven Gerrard change. Mind you, Brighton at home possibly looks better than that would have looked a few games ago. They're 11 without a win following last night. Then Liverpool, then Man City. Then you're almost guaranteed 3-pointer against Tottenham before you play the Club World Cup. Thanks, Ted. Love you too. You won't be invited back. But no, you are right. It is a difficult run of fixtures. And that's why I've got Reece James now. And I think that's probably it. I'm probably going to leave it there rather than invest further. But I'd still probably rather get one of them than a Wolves defender at the moment. Bradley, tell me about the importance of Ruben Neves. I think he's stepped up again this season.
Yeah, it's just the change of being higher up the pitch, because last season he was basically holding Conor Cody's hand. His pass last night to the goal was perfect. Not many players see that. He's taken a lot of responsibility as well now. He seems very, I'm the man sort of thing. Like, he does a lot more talking as well in the media than him and Cody seem to share it a lot more now. It just used to be Conor Cody all the time.
That's probably language barrier. Having been there 4 or 5 years now is probably a lot easier as well, I should imagine.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a black country twang.
Is he really? Yeah. Poor guy. That won't be me funny. Getting invited back to Dudley anytime soon then, unfortunately. No, I feel like he's really improved again, Brad. Is the speculation over him leaving, is that gone now?
Yeah, he needs to be given a new contract anyway. Like, if they was prepared to give Traore 100 grand a week, then it has to be Neves to have that money. He's just far more important. He's vice captain as well. So you can build a team around Neves. You can't build a team around a Traore.
I'm going to jump in, Bradley, because at time now of 20 past 12 UK time during recording, I can confirm it now. Looks like Leicester and Tottenham this evening is postponed. I saw Ted looking at his phone and it made me want to look at mine. And that appears to be the news, which doesn't come as a huge surprise to me. It means I'm now definitely not going down the pub tonight. I'm really at the stage of, I feel like, just call the football off at the moment, guys. It's not right. It's frustrating, actually, on a serious, that both clubs wanted the game postponed days ago and it's had to get left till like 7 hours before kickoff before we make the right decision. Is really frustrating. Anyway, that's rant over. I'll save that for tomorrow's podcast. Talk to me about the attacking players if you can, Brad. Trincao, Traore, Podence. They've all been traps for FPL managers. I feel like Hwang might be getting added to that list now as well. Can we ever trust like an attacking Wolves player ever again for FPL? Because as good as that defensive record is of 14 goals conceded, the 13 goals scored, considering that brilliant run of fixtures you had, is a little bit scary.
Yeah. It's quite frustrating because there definitely should have been more goals. Some of the chances are missed is hideous. Like Traore's missed about 3. Trincão's missed at least 3 as well. Podence, I feel more confident if Podence gets chances than the other 2. But they're not consistent enough. Podence is better at like seeing the little intricate passes. Trincão is a decent ball carrier. Traore just can destroy, but often picks the wrong choice. But yeah, I won't pick any of them for that. Them just not. You can't put your hat on them. You can't even trust who's going to start most of the time.
What would you say to Hwang owners? Did he pick up a knock last night?
I think it was might have been a thigh as well, or a hamstring, I think.
This is the other problem with this time of year as well, because the amount of football as well. Those who are obviously overdoing it, overloading on the work at the moment, seeing more and more muscle injuries.
I mean, our squad depth's pathetic as well. So,
but at least you have Raul Jimenez back at the weekend. What was he doing on Saturday, mate?
I don't know. I couldn't believe it. He's one of the most reliable players in the team as well. He's never really done anything stupid. Like I don't know what he was doing, throwing his headband on the floor.
It's just an absolute brain fart. And then he walks off the pitch like a real idiot as well.
Yeah, I just think he embarrassed or I think he just embarrassed.
I think it was. Yeah, he was like he'd literally been dumped at the bar and thought, I'm going to style this out, and it really wasn't working.
It's just embarrassing. He'll make up for it.
You've also got a returning forward as well, by the looks of it tonight, Ted, in Lukaku. Are you expecting him to start if the game's on?
If the game's on, yeah. I think so. Tuchel was saying that he's ready for about 70 plus minutes, and he's clearly not at full fitness. Some comments that in training that Lukaku's maybe been a bit careful on his ankle, doesn't seem fully confident or whatever. So maybe he's not completely ready, but he's certainly coming back to it now. We've just got to figure out how to use him correctly.
Do you get the feeling with him that he might be a player that it takes a while to get back to fitness? I'm thinking of the player at Manchester United who I think because the manager was there at the time, didn't kind of look after his fitness, who then obviously powered into the player we now recognise again that was obviously at Inter Milan. But I do wonder if he's a player who may take a little bit of time to get back up to speed, recovering from injury.
I think it's already been sort of a bit longer than what you'd normally expect recovery to be. So he's clearly someone that they're trying to be very careful about, which is fair enough. Maybe it's more his play style. It's important for him to be at full fitness. So he's got that speed, he's got that strength available to him. Because if you've got defenders getting touched tight to you, you don't want to be sort of unsure about whether your ankles can keep you safe, you know.
I hear that. What's the best two behind him?
Horses for courses, isn't it? I think Mount has got to be in there. But then outside of that, I like how Werner's playing currently. I think Werner's looking a lot better. So maybe I'd say him currently. But we have flashes where, Ziyech looks the best option. I think Hudson-Odoi is fantastic on that left-hand side.
He's the one that should be in all our FPL teams, you know that. I just mean in terms of where he plays, the ability of the player, but 5.3 million never looks like he's going to get the returns though.
I know. His final product is the thing that's missing, and it's the thing that's been missing for a very long time with him. Ever since he was a youth player, we've had issues with that. If he gets consistent starts in the spot that he wants to play, i.e. not being stuck in at wing back randomly, I can see him doing very well as a player. I love him. I think he's a fantastic talent. It's just that when you've got Ziyech, Pulisic, Mount, Havertz, Werner, all trying to compete for sort of two spaces, it's not going to end happily.
Yeah, I get that. And that's my issue with buying Mount, mate, is exactly that. I know that he's the best of that crop in terms of he should play. I know that probably when it comes to the crunch, he's in Tuchel's first 11, but looking over this period and going, you can play Mount, Werner, Havertz, Loftus-Cheek, you could push further forward, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, Pulisic, Barkley could play there as well, and going, that's a nightmare, all them players fighting for 2 places, because we know Kante is likely to be back on the bench tonight as well.
He'll be on the bench, yeah.
So obviously him coming back in is going to make a huge difference. Then if Loftus-Cheek wants to carry on getting minutes, it's going to be further up the pitch or just as cover. And obviously once Kovacic is back as well, which I understand might not be for a while. Am I right in saying that, Ted?
It's unclear what the current situation is. He's on his way back is all that I sort of gathered from it.
I like Kovacic. I think he's a very good player, actually. I mean, it's been him and Kante have been a big miss for you. And I think that's kind of what the biggest issue has been over the last 3-4 weeks, is the fact it's not a slight on Loftus-Cheek. It's just a level below the other two. I think it's no coincidence really that Jorginho's got this ongoing back injury, because he feels like he's carrying the team more without one of his mates, I should imagine.
It's a really noticeable difference when we don't have Jorginho around and we sort of have to make do with someone else. The control that we lose in midfield is shocking. I've got to give credit to Loftus-Cheek, because I thought his Chelsea career was pretty much done, to be honest.
Agreed.
I'm trying to think how old he is now. I think he's 26, something like that. He's getting on, ancient, isn't he? But yeah, I know. He's looking decent, and he's been playing a lot of games in a row, which is tough for him because he's got such a bad history of injuries. So to be performing decently well over that period, I think is fantastic for him. He's not on a level with Jorginho or Kante or whoever, though. And when you add in the fact, the Kovacic is the progressive passes he offers and the link up he offers between the front three and the defence, it's tough to fit Loftus-Cheek in there. I don't know if he's going to be competing with the front three to get in there, to be honest.
To be fair, it's very difficult for Loftus-Cheek, who's only the ancient age of 25, I should add, Ted. When Kante plays, it always feels like you've got 12 men. So any replacement at best is only going to be half the player anyway. I mean, it's almost completely unfair to compare the 2 players. And I think he's done fine. It's just a drop off. And I think it's definitely added some of the issues defensively that we wouldn't have expected that we've seen recently. Do you think there's any kind of rebel against Tuchel at the moment? And all I say by that is the goals you've been conceding recently have kind of come since these really bizarre comments about Christensen's contract, which to the outsider seemed a little bit double standards, because I'm looking at it and going, well, it's the exact same scenario as Rudiger, isn't it? But you're continuing to play Rudiger. So this doesn't really make sense to me. And I wondered if that might have caused some problems in the dressing room. Thoughts?
I don't know if there's a lot going on that we don't know about, I think. It is weird that he didn't call out Rudiger specifically. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if that'd be the case. If you look at the Zenit game, for example, the reason we were so poor is that our defence didn't know what they were doing.
Am I right in saying Rudiger and Thiago Silva missed that game?
Yes. So we had Sarr there, and that was a noticeable difference, because the team didn't know how to press during transitions at all, which caused us a number of problems. The line was just all over the place when they were attacking, especially as they're heading toward the byline with sort of defenders dotted all over the place. All in all, it hasn't been a few good performances, but I think it's more down to a lack of control in midfield potentially, and some sort of quick changes with the system with key players missing, rather than a rebellion or something going on in the background. It'd be very Chelsea for us to have a dressing room rebellion, but I don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned as well about the kind of December run over the last couple of years. You've had some very erratic December results in the last couple of years. Is it like sacking season? Is that what people at Chelsea think? We're used to having a new manager in January or something.
It does feel like that, doesn't it? I can't explain why we struggle so much in December. I can't see any reason for it. You've got more games, but
it should be more to an advantage for the
that should help us, if anything. So I can't explain what's going on. It was the same thing that hit Lampard so hard last season, and then he obviously got canned. Obviously, that's not going to happen with Tuchel. We know he'll stay unless he attacks Roman Abramovich or something. I think we'll be fine.
I can see it now. Nuno Espirito Santo, Champions League winner, May 2022.
As long as he don't come before Sunday. Sick of him robbing points off us.
How did we beat you, Bradley? How did we beat you?
Dele Alli died.
He did. No, not that time. He didn't, mate. That was a pen.
He goes into the goalie.
Listen, Bradley,
mate, this contact.
Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. That one was a penalty. I'll always give it truthful. Have you got any Chelsea players at the moment yourself, Brad?
I've had Rudiger since Probably game week 4, I think. Rudiger.
Any
Solid.
any thoughts to add?
No, I'm
No,
happy
you're
with
just happy with
Rudiger.
that.
I'm happy that I know he'll always play. And he's a
Yeah,
massive threat in the air.
He really is a 9 out of, he's going to play 9 out of 10, certainly. That's absolute certainty.
And he wins assists for penalty winner.
As you do, mate. He does like to come out whether with the ball or without the ball. Any balls for you, Bradley?
No.
And you shook your head. But last time you came on, I asked you about Wolves defenders, and it created a bit of a meme because your eyes popped out of your head.
Yeah.
And defensively, you've been very good since then. So should we listen to you this time or not, mate?
With the fixture on, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't touch him because you're probably just going to bench him at best. Be a luxury transfer to prepare, but we can't really prepare for anything at the minute. So
the game's also on
Sunday.
Max
Kelman
feels a long time away.
Max Kelman for Sky.
Yeah, I owned Max Kilman in my Sky second team for the run of fixtures actually at 6.2. Did really well. To the FPL listeners, that's going to sound really expensive, but I promise you it's absolutely not. Ted, any Wolves for you in the squad at the moment?
I do. I've got Connor Cody at the moment. And when I've needed him, he's actually fantastic. 8 points this week is about a third of my score, I think, for this week. So, yeah, I'm more than happy. I'd love to sell him, though. With some of the fixtures coming up, I'd love to get rid of him. Just, he is by far not one of my biggest problems in my team at the moment. There is some huge issues, so he's safe.
I take it he'd be on the bench for you this week, but obviously a definite auto sub.
Probably... I don't have much choice at this point, so...
And Chelsea, you said you've got what? Is it just Alonso and Mount, is it, Ted?
Alonso and Rudiger, I've got.
Alonso and Rudiger.
Yeah.
And because obviously these fixtures are stiffening him up. Do you think you'll keep the double?
Alonso's the one that might go. If the problem with Alonso is I don't think he's good, but I think he's the clear second choice left wing back at Chelsea. So I'd expect him to play. The problem is when you've got these tight games, you've almost got an excuse to bench him if you're too cool, which gives a chance to players like Sol or Azpilicueta, once like Chalobah, whoever are back, to stake a case for themselves, in which case then you can start losing minutes after that. I feel like if it's normal season where we get breaks every so often, you'll see you don't have that case to be able to bench Alonso. If you bench Alonso at that point, it's very clearly because you're trying something else, you've lost a bit of confidence or whatever. You bench him now, you can easily argue, it's just rotation, they're tired or whatever, which gives me a little bit of a worry. So he's one I'll keep an eye on.
All right, noted. Where do you think you finished, Ted? You kind of hinted at the start you thought perhaps chasing down City might be difficult now.
Yeah. It might be the same with Liverpool, honestly. It depends how we can do over this period. If we can start putting good performances together and getting the points that we should or maybe shouldn't get, we just need to pick up points during this period is what I'm trying to say. We can't afford to keep dropping points. If we do, I think we're looking at like third. I think Liverpool are looking a lot better than I was expecting. But we could do a lot better. If we start performing how I know we can perform, I wouldn't rule us out a title challenge. It's unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I think you obviously need to win the game tonight if it goes ahead. Yeah. Then the next 6 games is probably going to shape what happens. Because if you kind of only run at, say, 2 points per game over that period, then possibly have a couple of blanks, you could quickly find yourself like 11, 12 points behind. And then when you're chasing City on that margin, you're done, basically, I think. So really big period. You're certainly capable, mate, that's for sure. And obviously that massive kind of double header, 21 and 22 against Liverpool at home, and the trip to the Etihad going to be absolutely massive for you. Bradley, what you fancy for a final league position? We're looking at top half now?
Yeah, I would imagine so, unless there's like a massive injury crisis, then there should be solid enough for a top 10 finish.
Yeah, I'd kind of have you about 9th in my mind at this stage now, I think.
That'd be a really successful season, to be honest.
I think off the back of how bad the second half of your last season was, yes, it would. I'm concerned about the lack of goals in the team, though, because you could concede 1 goal and get beat in almost any game at the moment. It feels like that. I said before you went to Norwich, it would be typical Wolves not to win, to get beat in that game off some good results. And you should have lost that day, actually.
Goalie.
You were lucky. Yeah.
Patricia was in goal, we'd lose.
I don't disagree with that. I really like Sarr. I think he's very decent.
He's made Cody better as well. Because Cody don't have to worry about like Patricia like being stuck on his line and having nobody to bail him out, or he's helped a lot.
But Cody still plays just as deep, doesn't he? Basically, he can't help it.
He's a bit higher, a little bit, because Sarr will sweep for him as well. I mean, we're the only team not to concede from a set piece, amazingly.
Oh wow!
I mean, Sarr's got the most claims as well.
Goes to the bookies, puts 50 quid on Rudiger to score at the weekend. Almost certainly did. Brad, you didn't just say that before you're playing Chelsea, did you? Surely.
It's got to happen 1.8.
Yeah, probably Sunday if the game goes ahead. Yeah, I think you'd be, as long as you keep the majority of the squad fit, I think you'd be good things for top half, actually. I don't think anything beyond that. I think Europe would be too far this year. I think there's a danger of the top 7 pulling away a little bit, and Leicester look a little bit more improved recently. But you certainly caught up 3 points on Leicester and Tottenham this week, because no game again by the looks of it. Now, I think you're doing fine, mate. It's nice to see you on that points total. Must be anyway. We're on about 24 points.
Yeah, 24.
10 more points. 10 more points when you're probably safe, or so. There's no concerns.
He just needs the backing from the board.
He's not going to get it, though, is he?
I can't see it happening in January.
Agreed.
I mean, we need a box-to-box mid. We definitely need another centre-back for him to play what he wants.
Do you know, we haven't spoken about Traore. What is it with him, mate? He's got so much ability. He must be so frustrating. I would still take him at Tottenham tomorrow. I'd have him as a substitute last 20 minutes of any game, especially if
he was linked with him, weren't you, again? So
to be honest, if Tottenham can get him cheap, I think they probably still will look at it.
I think if you bid like between 20 and 25, you'd probably get him in January. I think he's obviously not going to sign the new contract. So I'm not sure where he's going to go, though. That will improve his career, to be honest. Because if he goes to Tottenham, he's going to be a bench player most of the time. Whereas at Wolves, at least he's probably going to start the majority of games. He was better yesterday. He'd make a few runs, but he doesn't anticipate very well. He's reactive. He's too reactive.
His movement off the ball
bad.
So bad. He's such a stationary player. Unless the ball is at his feet, there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
If he could learn to just run in behind off people and stuff, he would
be a nightmare to deal with.
Because you can't stop him. There is only one way to stop him. The only other way, by fouling him, is actually just let him make his own mistake.
Yeah.
Just have to pray. And to be honest, most of the times he does. He does make the wrong choice.
I've seen Larg on the touchline having a go at him a lot.
I'm still convinced though that there's potential for something incredible in there. I still am. Because when he's at like full pelt, you can't stop him. When we played each other earlier in the season, Bradley, it was a joke. He was the best player on the pitch by miles. And yet, since probably maybe the United game, the win at Watford, it's been nothing from him, basically. Basically, since everybody in FPL got interested in him, he's done nothing, which is often the way. All right, guys, absolute pleasure. Stay safe over this period. I hope you both have a great Christmas. Let's do predictions before we finish. Unusually, Ted, as you got a game tonight, I'll ask you first for the prediction for tonight against Everton.
If it goes ahead...
I was going to say, don't say postponed.
Yeah, something like, I think 2-0 Chelsea. I think it should be all right. Who knows how many players we're going to have, though.
I think
we just about to do a bunch more testing at the club now, so I expect more positives than just the 3.
I think I went for 3-0 in the sweepstakes. I've been Everton in such a state as well. Bradley, you can't say postponed either. Go on, give us a correct score prediction for Sunday.
I can see a 1 each or something like that.
Nice, brave. Ted?
See it very easily being 0-0. And something like, if Traore is playing on the right against Alonso, that could be hilarious. But I'll go for something like 1-0 Chelsea.
Yeah, but if he gets past Alonso, he's got to get past Rudiger.
Yeah, well,
to be honest, that's a shoulder charge I'd like to see, Rudiger against Traore.
There could be a fight at some point during that game.
I think the correct answer will be postponed, unfortunately. I think 1-0 Chelsea is probably where it's written in terms of your results, Bradley. That's kind of the on trend at the moment.
Tight.
Low scoring victories against teams that you're better than, and low scoring defeats teams that are better than you is basically where it's at. But I mean, it's always, when I look at the fixture, I think, let's get Wolves away out of the way. I always feel like that. Whenever you walk away from Wolves and win, I feel like you've had a right result, no matter the circumstance. So it'd be a tough game for you, Ted, certainly. Bradley, where can everyone follow you on Twitter, my friend?
At Parker_Bradley.
And for yourself, Ted?
At Rotation FPL.
Good stuff, lads. Thank you very much for that. Tomorrow, me and Suj will be trying to review whatever football hasn't and will take place in game week 17 ahead of what we hope will still be a game week 18. Next week's Clash of the Correspondents is scheduled to be Southampton versus West Ham with Matt Samuel and Chris Stone. The day after West Ham are scheduled to play Tottenham in the Carabao Cup. I may well have set myself up for another fall on that podcast. But I wish everybody the very best of luck for the weekend ahead. Stay safe, everyone. Cue music, please, man child.